Joining us now, not far from his office on Capitol Hill, is Democratic freshman Congressman Anthony Brindisi. Congressman, I know it's a busy day there, not just pending the impeachment vote tomorrow, but there's other votes happening that you just got back from.
Yeah, today we are funding the government, which just shows what we can do when we work together. We're going to come up with a funding bill which will be signed into law, which provides for a number of good things for our region and really good for our country.
You've had to get back to work today after announcing a big decision. What have the immediate hours been like for you since you committed to voting yes to impeachment?
Well, nothing changes for me. I continue to work on the issues that people in upstate New York care about. Within the spending package, we had a big win, a repeal of the health insurance tax, which is something that was set to go into effect next year, which would have raised premiums for people on Medicare Advantage and people who get their health insurance through their employer. We're going to see a repeal of that so we don't see premiums going up next year. We're going to save a VA clinic within our district from closure. So there's a number of good things that are in this spending package, and I look forward to coming back and discussing it with folks back home.
But after making such a big decision, somebody must have come up to you at least once or twice, or maybe a call or email from a constituent that got directly to you that said, hey, good job, or hey, bad job. What's the reaction been like since this announcement's been out?
Well, look, there's been thousands of calls and emails into our office since all this started, and I've looked at the emails. I've fielded hundreds of phone calls into our office, listening to constituents, and did my best to weigh all the evidence and make the best decision I can. But the work continues here, and I look forward to continuing that work and getting some good things done for our farmers, our veterans, and working to help lower drug costs and other areas where we got to come together and get things done.
Yesterday in Cheryl, you told me you were reading and rereading transcripts. What specifically can you point to that helped guide your decision to say, yes, impeachment is necessary?
Well, I laid out all the transcripts on my dining room table at home. We laid out all the articles I've been reading over the last few weeks on impeachment, going back and reading constitutional articles, scholarly articles on impeachment, looking at those transcripts and reviewing the articles of impeachment and trying to make the best decision I can. I think the hardest part for me in this whole thing is that I have successfully worked with the President and the White House on a number of initiatives. Just last week I was at the White House meeting with the Vice President, hammering out this new trade deal with Mexico and Canada, which we're pleased to see finally getting done. We worked on that Spoons Act, which is something that's going to help Cheryl manufacturing and provide good jobs for our region. We're seeing huge funding in this defense authorization bill for the Air Force Research Laboratory in Rome, which provides cutting-edge research for our war fighters and provides a lot of jobs in our region. So those are the things I'm going to continue to work on with the White House as we move forward into the new year.
But what specifically put you in the impeachment column versus your neighboring Congressman John Katko, who thinks the charges don't quite hit that high bar set for impeachment?
Well, I've said all along that I believe that the allegations against the president have been quite troubling. Certainly when you're talking about withholding military assistance or meeting at the White House in exchange for a political favor from a foreign nation in regards to a rival here back home, that's very troubling. A lot of evidence has come out over the last few weeks, and I've gone back and reviewed all that evidence and felt that there was a sufficient amount of evidence to go forward with articles of impeachment. Ultimately, my duty is to uphold the Constitution and the rule of law, and that's what I swore an oath to do, and that's what I'm doing.
President Trump won your district by 15% in 2016. 2 years later, you beat Congresswoman Tenney, who's running again to get her job back, by only 2%. Do you worry about what this decision will do for your reelection?
No, look, we live in the greatest democracy in the history of the world, and the voters will have their say next year. As I've said, this was a tough decision for me, and one that I took a lot of time to try and make the right decision. I want to make sure that I'm reviewing all the evidence, which I have done, and making the best decision that upholds my oaths to the Constitution. But going forward, we'll be judged on the work that we get done for the district, the work I've been doing on trade, supporting our farmers, supporting our veterans, passing a good bill in the House last week to lower prescription drug costs for our seniors and those who depend on life-saving medication. That's what I care about, and that's what we need to get done for the American people.
Did your team sit down and calculate politically what this means for you? Obviously, you have a whole staff of people for a campaign that's looking at numbers and the different counties and borders and all those things. Did that, you know, it didn't affect your decision, you'd say, but did somebody at least look at that?
No, look, I've told everyone on our staff and everyone that works in our office that our decision is going to be based on the evidence and the facts and the rule of law. That's what we're going to look at when we decide this issue. And ultimately, the voters, I think, will decide based upon our record of getting things done for our farmers, getting things done for our veterans, working to lower prescription drug costs, getting a trade deal in place with Mexico and Canada, moving forward and supporting economic development at places like Sherrill Manufacturing. Those are the kinds of things that we've been working on in this office, and that's ultimately what I think the voters will judge me by.
What's your message to the strong Trump supporters and Tenney supporters who also support Trump in the 22nd District back at home?
Well, I would say, look, President Trump is my president too, and I want to make sure that we continue the good work we've been doing with President Trump, finally getting that Spoons Act done to support a great manufacturer in upstate New York. Another provision that I co-led in the Defense Authorization Bill, the first ever Fentanyl Sanctions Act, so we can crack down on illicit fentanyl coming in from Mexico and China. Those are things that I work with the administration on, and I'll continue to do that, and that's what I'll be judged on ultimately by the voters.
But to the people who hold this decision against you when they go to the ballot box or the electronic poll nowadays next November, what do you say to them? How do you convince them that you shouldn't be held accountable for this one decision in their mind if they disagree with it?
Well, again, you have to show the voters the entire body of work, and hopefully voters will decide based on that. The work I've been doing to support our veterans and family farmers and trying to lower prescription drug costs, those are the things that I've been working on and hopefully will ultimately be judged by. But I've always said, look, whether you supported me or not, I represent all the people in this district, and I'm going to continue to do that going forward.
Not long after your announcement, we did get a statement from the White House naming you specifically. Part of it reads, quote, "Brindisi has wasted time and taxpayer dollars on a sham impeachment hoax." Your response to that reaction from the White House?
Well, that's what they're going to argue, and my point of view is we have to look at the evidence. It's not okay for any president, I don't care if they're a Democrat or Republican, to be talking to foreign leaders and withholding aid or other favors in exchange for an investigation into a political rival back home. That involves our national security, and that's the utmost importance. Ultimately, this president and all of us have to be judged by the Constitution. We're a co-equal branch of government here in Congress, and we'll continue to work with the president, I will, on major issues that impact folks in upstate New York.
You stood before me and other reporters about 24 hours ago in Sherrill, at the time not willing to commit to your vote either way, but clearly at that time you had already made your decision since it takes time to write such a lengthy and thoughtful editorial. So why did you hide your decision yesterday from us until releasing it early this morning?
Well, that's your characterization that I was hiding it, but truly this is a decision that I've been making over the weekend and into yesterday, and ultimately decided it was the right thing to do. But going forward, we're going to continue to get the work done on behalf of people in the 22nd District. Looking forward to some of the big wins that we got in the last couple weeks here that will support economic development, our farmers, veterans. We just saw a big increase in funding for the VA, which is going to help get our heroes more of the services they need. A big win with the repeal of the health insurance tax, which was set to go into effect next year, which everyone in upstate New York would have been hit by in some way with increased premiums. That's not going to happen now because of a bill that I helped incorporate into the spending package. Those are the things I'm going to be focused on going forward here, and look forward to doing the work of the people in the 22nd District.
Well, so I guess what changed your mind overnight? What was the final, the straw that broke the camel's back overnight since we last spoke yesterday? What really put you in, let me put that out, let me commit to voting yes?
Well, again, as we went through the weekend and the last couple of weeks and reading all the transcripts and looking at the evidence, I felt that there was sufficient evidence to go forward with the articles of impeachment. Having said that, the Senate will have to make a decision whether or not the president should be removed from office, but I felt at least here in the House there was enough evidence to move forward.
You know, we all have people professionally who we seek guidance from, even if it's private. Is there any one person in your circle, in your life, that you said, this is one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make? You said yesterday it's the hardest decision in your political career. Who did you go to for this, and what kind of guidance did they give you?
Well, look, I've talked to a number of people over the last few weeks. The most important people in my life are my wife Erica and my two children, Anthony and Lily, and ultimately I want to make sure that they're proud of me and make sure that I do right by the people that live in the district that I represent. I looked at all the evidence and finally came to this determination, and at the end of the day, I think I'm following the rule of law and I'm following the Constitution, which is the oath that I swore I would defend.
Does this take you back to your courtroom days a little bit as you prepared for this decision?
Of course, getting all the transcripts out, getting the highlighter out, going through each one of those, reading constitutional law cases, reading articles that were written about impeachment, certainly brings you back to your constitutional law days, and I look at everything. I try not to judge anything before I have all the facts, and I was one of the last to really come out in support because I wanted to make sure that we had all the facts. I think for members on both sides who are either quick to condemn the president or quick to defend the president are wrong, because we should really weigh all the evidence, and certainly as they move forward in the Senate, weigh all the evidence as well.
Before I let you go and get back to your busy schedule, what does tomorrow look like? We know that this vote is tentatively scheduled unless you have new information for us on a exact time set, but what does tomorrow look like for you on what is a historic day in America? And I think in the past you've used the word somber. It will be a somber day in America.
It will be. I think the day here will probably be no different than any other day. I'm looking forward to what has to come forward at the end of the week, passing the USMCA to get this new trade deal in place with Mexico and Canada. That's going to help our farmers. That's a big win for us this week, and I'm proud we worked with the White House to do that.
Have you been given any guidance on a time for a vote tomorrow?
No guidance yet. We'll see what time it's going to happen, but I'm sure there's going to be lots of debate on the House floor tomorrow, and I'm going to look forward to sitting down and listening to it.
All right, Congressman Anthony Brindisi taking time out of his busy schedule to join us. Luckily, you're not too far from your office. You're in the Cannon building, so I know you can get right back to work. Thanks so much for taking time for us.
Thanks, Andrew.